Welcome to the Nuclear Power Institute's The Path of Most Persistent podcast. The podcast highlighting individual stories of persistence, community outreach, and inspiration to support the continuing and emerging nuclear science and technology needs across the state of Texas. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy today's podcast.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Great. So today we are welcoming Regina Pena and Ava Pena to our podcast, The Path of Most Persistence. Here at NPI, we try very hard to engage folks that we think will really inspire our audiences. And today we have two individuals that we believe will do exactly that. They're going to illuminate our path by telling their stories. As I said, we have Regina Pena. She is the CEO and president of Philly Seafood. And we have her daughter, Ava Pena, who is a social media coordinator. I think you're an interim social media coordinator.
Yeah, I started.
Or an intern.
Intern. I'm an intern, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We have the rest of our NPI team with us. We have Travis Burks and Gianna Colson and Rebecca Hernandez. And what we're going to do is we'll just take turns asking you questions. We want to hear your stories about your path of most persistence, how you've overcome some obstacles in your life. But before we get started, I do want to, for the sake of transparency, I do want to let our audience know that Regina and I are sisters. I am number 12 in our family of 13, and you're number 9. Yes. She's number 9, and Ava is Regina's daughter. And Ava, you're number what in your family?
I'm number 6. I'm number 6.
Of?
7.
Very good. Okay, so just to get things started, not only did I want to be transparent about our relationships, but although you have a special place in my heart, that's not the reason you're here today. The reason that you guys have been asked to speak with us, to share your stories, is because we officially collaborated this summer. Ava and I specifically did some videos together for our series of Science in the Kitchen, Cooking Up Curiosity. And I really want to talk about that for a moment, and then perhaps we can transition into some other things. But before we get started with you, Ava, because I really want to start off with you, it was this summer, I think perhaps when I first noticed your Philly videos.
Our Cooking with Philly, yes.
Yes, and it's called Cooking with Philly, right?
Yes.
And obviously I'm a fan for lots of different reasons, but when you took over the videos, I was captivated. I really was. You did such a great job engaging the audience, definitely highlighting your family's product. But I really appreciated how you brought in guests. Sometimes you were their sous chef, sometimes they were their assistant to you. But I just thought it was really wonderful. And as I was watching, it made me have an idea of, why don't we do something like that? Because it was so engaging and I liked your platform. And as I was thinking and fleshing that idea out, I thought, well, why wouldn't I reach out to Ava and Regina from the beginning, since you guys had the expertise and I knew I could learn a whole lot from you, Ava. So can you guys tell us a little bit about that whole series that you have?
Yeah, so beginning of this year, I was living in Spain, studying abroad. I came back and I had nothing to do. You know, COVID was happening. We couldn't go anywhere. And my mom was obviously still running her business. And I told her, why aren't y'all getting on social media? People have nothing better to do but, scroll through social media right now. So this would be a great opportunity for us to get some free advertising, to get some videos out there, just kind of share our brands, with the people. So we have had social media before, but we weren't consistently posting or staying engaged. So I started doing social media kind of for fun. She was like, you know what, if you want to do it, you can do it. So I did it for fun. And then they came to me, my mom and her marketing team came to me and were like, we want to bring back the Cooking with Philly videos, but we want you to be the face the host. We want you to do all of it. And I was like, I'm so embarrassed. It's going to be so embarrassing. And my mom was like, you have to, you're doing it. You live at home for free. Come on. And so I thought to myself, you know what, this could be good. I'm not doing anything anyway. So it could be fun. So we brought those and we kind of winged it. We really just went with the flow. We had no set plan or goal with it. So it was just kind of went as we, I guess, plan as we go type of thing. And it's turned into something great. We've been able to collaborate with chefs, influencers, local chefs, really supporting local people that are involved in the food industry. So we've taken a break on it since I've started school again, but we might be coming back with something soon. So yeah, that's how it all got started.
Yeah, she's, it's part of her major, and it would be a good collaboration. And Ava's, as you can see, is very enthusiastic and energetic, and I knew she had it in her to do it, and I trusted her to make decisions for that, and she did, and she's done a great job.
Well, that was very, very clear. And again, thank you so much, Ava, because we did do videos together and I learned so much from you. So thank you for giving your time and being patient with me. But Gina, if we could, and listen, for the audience, her professional name is Regina because that is her birth name, but because she's my big sister, I have to call her Gina because that's her name at home. So I apologize to the audience, but Gina.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you too, because not only did you allow Ava to collaborate with me, you accepted the idea I attempted to pitch to you as I was trying to figure it out myself. You guys were so generous because you allowed us the use of your kitchen, your videographer, and then of course some of your partners to go on site. So thank you for opening those doors. And as Ava alluded to, the whole situation with COVID made it difficult because even with NPI, we're so limited in what we can do and where we can travel. And because your partners are located here in Palacios, I was able to do that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm a firm believer that all rising tides lift all boats. And I think we all, anytime you can collaborate and work with others, it's just a win-win all the way around. So I appreciate you guys. I mean, you're a wonderful organization. We're so excited and honored that you wanted to do this with us. So thank you.
Well, absolutely. And if I could, Gina, I want to turn to you for a moment. And I really want to talk about your business. I would love to hear your story. If you want to talk about how it is Philly Seafood got started, were you just a natural born entrepreneur? Were you one that slowly built her business drip by drip of sweaty drips? Or tell us about it. Tell us about your story, please.
Well, I think, are you a naturally born entrepreneur? I am a person that knew or always worked and always wanted to work, and I always wanted to be a mother. And so I originally started as a childcare provider. I had a daycare center there in Palacios and kind of started because I started having babies and I didn't want to leave my babies. And and I think maybe growing up in a family of entrepreneurs, you just kind of look for that path that works best for you. And that was, and we did that. We did that for many years. And then, we had a tragedy in our family, and I kind of lost my passion, and I decided, I really didn't want to do that. And I was fortunate enough that somebody offered to buy the business. And so I sold it, and I stayed home for about a year. And I had an older brother that was in the seafood business, as my family has been for, a few generations, starting with my dad and my mom. That came over one day. He was my neighbor. He walked over and he said, I'll never forget the day. I was outside. Dan and I were at work. I don't know if I was washing the car, but we were all outside on the driveway. The kids were all running around. And he said, do you want to sell shrimp? And I had been home for a while, and I knew, I've always been a girl that works. And so I said, I don't know how. And what do I do? And he said, listen, you just tell him it's the best shrimp in the world and it'll sell itself. And so I believed him like a fool. And I said, okay. And so he actually had some inventory that he needed to get rid of. And so I said, okay, well, I'll try as long as I could take the girls. And so I started going into Houston, talking to white tablecloth restaurants. They're on Post Oak, and just talking to the chefs, and oh, we'll try. And it just kind of grew that way. And I it was just kind of organic. I mean, we got one little restaurant, then we got another, and I had a Suburban at the time, and I would load the shrimp on the back of my Suburban, and I had I had 3 car seats, and I was pregnant. So, and I would, go into Houston, or actually 4 car seats, and I would go into Houston, drop off the product, and it just kind of grew from there. At that point, after probably doing that a year, because my family is the largest shrimp producer collectively in the country, we would sell most of our product off to large packers. At that time, one of our largest partner packer went out of business. And so they worked very closely with HEB. And at that time, HEB knew my family because they had been working through this packer, but they would always tout my family's production, and they would take my brothers to meetings and things. So they knew of us. And they came to me and said, hey, we've got this hole. Do you want to fill it? And so it was just a stroke of great fortune. So we said yes. And that's how we kind of went to the next level. As we, continued to grow the food service side, we started working with broadline distributors like Benny Keith and Cisco. And at that point, it was me and a secretary. And I'd kind of gotten to the point where it was like, I knew that I had nothing else, because mind you, I'm still a mother and a wife, and, working a lot. And so I decided to scale, and I had a great relationship with a salesman from another company. I brought him on, and that's really when we took it to the next level. Because before that, I was working in a garage apartment with my secretary. Kids are downstairs or in the front yard running around. Prior to that, I was running away into my bedroom, into my bathroom, into my closet to, talk on the phone with, customers. And it was crazy. And that was probably all of Ava's life, because that's her childhood, unfortunately, poor baby. Now, we partner with a lot of packers. We sell other items. We are growing into more seafood items this coming year. But we've become really, originally we started it, the purpose was to sell the family's production, market and sell it. We're growing into doing other items for other companies. And so we're becoming more marketing, and sales. So, and it's been a great ride. It's been about, what are we, 2000 what? 2001. So we're around 20 years. When we, I guess, incorporated, I kind of started
1998.
doing this, 1998.
We don't know the real date. It's like 1998 between 2002. So
no, we incorporated in 2000. So when my Julia's older sister was 1, and I was Ava's older sister Julia was 1, and I was pregnant with Ava. But and so that's kind of what we do. We just market and sell domestic shrimp right now, farm raised as well as wild. We will be doing domestic farm raised catfish and hybrid striped bass and redfish, and hopefully soon we'll be doing some farm raised oysters out of Matagorda Bay here in the next couple of years. That's a project that is just now getting started. So we're going to be doing a lot more marketing of other domestic items.
Well, that was impressive and exhausting because you summarized the last 24 years of your life in 7 minutes. So I think, as impressive as that was, I know you left out many important uh, areas of interest and accomplishments and obstacles. So before we move on, I have to give a little shout out to your first daycare, or your daycare, the Little People's Place. Thank you very much. Because my own children attended the Little People's Place, and I owe the beginning of my professional career to you, Gina, because as a very nervous mother, I couldn't have imagined leaving my babies with anybody else other than you. So thank you so much for supporting not only my professional career as a working mother, but of course as a sister. Lots of love there.
Love your baby.
And I laugh because I've told a lot of my colleagues, and of course my friends all know, that I'm part of an entrepreneurial family, which I am not, because I identified very early on that that was not my path in life. And the only way that I could somehow get close to measuring up to my siblings was through getting several degrees, because that was the only way that I could somehow compete with them in measuring up, because they are amazing in what you do. So thank you for everything you've done. But I want to talk a little bit more, because this is the path of most persistence. Gina, I want to talk about your persistence. Were there ever any obstacles in your life, and you could talk about it on the personal side, the professional side, the mothering side, however, whatever direction you'd like to go, any obstacles that you'd like to share with us that you've encountered, and how you overcome them, how you persisted through?
Yeah, I think everyone has obstacles. I mean, certainly I've had mine personally and in business. I think a lot of times, as Valerie, talked to me about doing this, I kind of was thinking, okay, what my path of, most persistence. And I think growing up, we grew up in a very large family. I think sometimes it's difficult to find your path or your niche in the brood of or in the midst of a brood of children. And so I think I don't know if it was I don't know if it's just where it came from, but I always had this feeling, or this inner thing in me, that I was better than I was. And I don't know if that's
always been great.
Compensating. I don't know. For, my sister above me was like extremely, she sucked up all the talents. I mean, she was an athlete. She was incredibly talented. She could sew, she could cook, she could do everything. And, I couldn't, and I wasn't an athlete, but I did have, and I don't know why, and I guess, maybe it was my mother, or little things I remember about my father that made me believe that I was destined to be somebody, or to, that I was somebody special, right? And
well, let me just interject with, I think our parents did a very good job of making us all feel special, but I think Mom and Dad, I think you felt it very, very well, because they did it for all of us. But I distinctly remember hearing the comments they would give you about your specialness. So that is very, very true. We were very fortunate.
I think they were trying to compensate for
okay. Stop that.
Well, I give that to them, because I did have, I guess prior to knowing, what dyslexia was, I'm a girl in my mid-50s. I had a lot of trouble in school. It was very challenging for me. And so I guess on the opposite side of that, you overcompensate for, feeling that you're not smart, or, I focused on what I did have. And I guess, because I did try, or I felt like that I was a friendly person. I was, I guess, a liked person, but I had this really, difficult time in school. And so that was really, I guess, a real challenge for me growing up, because it was always the yin and the yang. I felt like I was somebody special, and I should, could be somebody special. But on the other side, in my inner self, I knew that, academically, I was not, I was not the brightest, or the sharpest knife in the, in the knife case. So I guess that was, as in my childhood, that was my biggest, I guess that was my biggest adversity. I always felt, like I said, I always felt like I was a girl that was loved. I felt like I do, and still do. My husband and I laughs all the time, because I always feel like I'm a girl that needs to be heard. And so I'm like, just hear me. And he's like, oh, I know, you have to be heard, right? And I'm like, yes, I do. Maybe because I was 9 of the 13, you had to be louder and a little more flamboyant and whatever to be heard and to be seen. So I think that's kind of one of my blessings, I guess, that I, had that in me, that I felt like if I relied on myself, somehow I could make things work, right? And so I think that, too, we talk about entrepreneurial spirit. I think that, and I've never seen a statistic, but I think maybe you look at statistics of entrepreneurs, perhaps that, places, but I felt like, you don't want to be put in a situation where you are embarrassed or demeaned, or so I always felt like if it's my business, if I'm in control, then it is my decision. Nobody's gonna, it's a power thing. You can't. I will show you what I want to show you, and you will see what I want to share with you. So I think that was my biggest thing growing up, and I think, again, of course, Daniel and I knew we would have a lot of children. I didn't have a plan. We never had a plan that we would have 7 children. We just knew that we were open to life, and that we were going to work it out. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because we don't plan. But I look back, if I look at my story, like, how much did I really plan for my life? And that was one of the things I tell my daughters: you plan your life, you don't let life plan you. Yet I kind of did that, and but I guess always with the idea that I had a partner that would support me, and I, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. So we started our daycare. My husband played professional baseball for a little bit. Then we moved back to Texas, and we decided we were ready to start a family. How am I going to make money? And he was out looking for a job. And so that's kind of how that organically came up, and it just grew. I feel like sometimes you can see a niche, and so we went in, we did it, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It fulfilled me in a way that was wonderful. It was very, very stressful working with people's children, but it was a wonderful experience until the death of my son, my second born, passed away in an accident. And although the community was extremely loving, and I just lost that, the fire. It was too painful. So I just could not do that anymore. I lost my heart for that. So my husband was so kind as to be supportive, and we were very lucky. I always see God's hand in all things, and it just so happened somebody came along and wanted to, and I needed to break away from that. And spend some time with my children and myself and my husband for healing. And so, so that was a very difficult time, and that is probably my my biggest path of persistence. As anyone can imagine, when you lose somebody you love, but certainly your child that is very young, and I had a lot of guilt associated with his passing, although it was completely an accident. I blamed myself for a long time, and so if you lose a child, it is a piece of your soul. You can go down a very very black hole that that can take you to places people can't go, and it was that for me, and for my family, for my husband as well. And I remember I could barely get out of bed and take care of myself, and I remember just crying all the time. And my oldest daughter, who at the time was 6, and I was laying in bed, and she came to me and she's like, "Mama, when are you going to stop crying? When will you stop crying?" And that was the day I had to pull it together and have my persistence to lead a life that was going to be fair to my children, to myself, to my husband, to the life that God had given me. And so from that day, I decided that I would pull myself together, and I would put my into a box, and that I would focus on my children and my life. And so, that has been a process. A year later is when my brother came over. And again, I've always been a girl that has, I don't stay idle for long, because you can imagine at that point, I had 2 children. I was pregnant with another. I'd lost our son. And, so I needed to be busy, and like I wasn't busy enough. So when he came to me and he said, do you want to do this? And I said, sure, I'll try. And as it grew, it was, and we needed a name, and we decided, okay, we're just not peddlers of shrimp in the back of a truck, but we are going to be a business. We're going to be, and at that point, I told my brother, he's like, well, what do you want to name it? And I said, can we name it Philly? And he said, sure. And my son's name was Daniel Phillip, and we called him Phil. We called him all. We're a family of many different nicknames. We throw out crazy nicknames and things. So, but we called him Philly, and we had a little song about it. And so I wanted that really badly, because I wanted his name to always be spoken. And so my brother agreed. He was great, and he said yes. So then it becomes, okay, now you've got this company, it says his name. Now I want everybody to know his name. And so then it becomes, yes, it was a business. We're trying to make money, of course. But now it's a pride thing. It's in honor of my boy. And so my reputation, my products are very important to me, because that is his name. And so in that persistence now, first we had HEB, and that was great, and we're happy, and we're doing, but so he's good in Texas, so we need to go, national, and we have a lot to grow, still more to do, but that has been my grind. That has been my reason for, so many things, as any person knows in business, it's hard, and there's been many times you want to give it up or throw in the towel, but I could never do that, because his name must always be spoken, at least as long as I'm alive. I'll see where that goes. So that's kind of been that has been my hurdles in life, and so yeah, that's that's kind of where we're at now.
That's so much, Gina, and again, we've talked. I mean, you're my sister, so of course, you know how I feel about you, and you know how I feel about Danny, and so I want to thank you for sharing all of that with us, because you're, again, being so gracious, and I want to say that to me it is such a wonderful opportunity to talk about him today, to share your story, because the amount of obstacles that you have overcome and that you continue. I know some of these things are not a one time, you get over it and then it's good. These are ongoing issues and painful realities that you deal with on a day-to-day. And I just want to thank you for sharing all of that with us. And as your sister, I love you so much, and I appreciate what an amazing example you've always been to me, and especially as far as resiliency and being able to overcome and persist. You, along with our mother, have been the greatest examples of resiliency to me. And you're, one of the reasons that when I was getting my doctoral degree, that I did my dissertation on resiliency, because not only did I want to capture that magic, those beautiful skills and characteristics that you possess, but I also want other people to learn that not everybody's born with that. And I'm not saying that you were born with that. You obviously had to live through and fight for your resiliency, because you can never be prepared for what you've gone through. There's nothing you can do to prepare for that. But there are skill sets that you can learn to be more resilient and more persistent. And again, having folks like yourself on this series with us talking today and sharing your story will help so many people, because as we've talked on every episode, how life is so hard and it's unfair. But if you find whatever you can use to gain that strength to overcome and to keep fighting the good fight, you do it, you use it. And it's good for other people to know that everybody struggles, some more than others. Like for you, going through what you've gone through, your family's gone through, and nobody would ever compare. But it's good for people to hear your story, not only to learn from you, but to hear about Danny Philly's story, because it's a beautiful story. And I know there's going to be so many other parents and family members out there that would appreciate that. But I will also say to you too, at the beginning of your sharing of your obstacles about learning disabilities, that's an incredible story to tell, especially to our young people, because for a lot of individuals that have learning disabilities or issues going through school, unless you have that somewhere, if it's that firm support of encouragement and love at home, it's even more than that. Someone deep inside that, unfortunately, even when children have a firm foundation of love and support at home, it's so hard going to school and having to face your peers or cruel adults that aren't very kind sometimes to children that struggle. There has to be that fight somewhere, and not everybody's born with it. So it's good for our young people, because we have such a strong network of young people and educators. And when they hear about individuals that have had those struggles, that have overcome them, again, it's not as though you just get better, but it's an ongoing struggle. But you've been able to not only succeed, but be so tremendously successful. So thank you for that, because that is powerful. Those are powerful stories that we want our audience to hear, because you make other people's paths brighter.
Thank you, Valerie. I do want to add to that, because you're absolutely right. It is not these things that happen in our childhood, or traumatic things that happen throughout our lives. It is the I kind of alluded to, I put those feelings in a box and I put them to the side because there was something I had to do, and I had a family to raise, and I had to be there for my child. I couldn't be wounded, and so I did that for a very long time, 20 years that I did that. But, we all need healing. And so, and just so that people know, sometimes, when the body has had enough, the body has had enough. And, I had a lot of, unresolved guilt and a grieving that I did not process all the way through. And so, it caught up with me, just as a year and a half ago. And, I got to a point where it just kind of, you have to deal with these things, and it will come, and I guess it's best to deal with things as they come, but I never felt like I could do that at that time because I had such young children. And but what I will say to those that have had tragedy and loss and hurt, that those are all important feelings, and they count, and they weigh on a person's soul, and they must be addressed. And when you can address them with the help of others, professional or friends or whomever, and you can be honest with yourself and forgive others, life can be even more beautiful on the other side of those things. And there's healing, and we can come to terms with things that happen to us, or things of that sort. So I just encourage that, that as I've been very lucky in my life, it as you said, it doesn't just go away. It will manifest itself in some way, and it will come back. And the body, just like if you're a runner with an injury, your body will stop when your body cannot take anymore. And it's the same with the mind and the soul. You have to find peace and be able to move on from that.
Well, thank you for that, because I think that so many folks, when they go through traumatic situations, that they think over a certain time, you deal with it and you move on and you never. But as painful as that was for you to share, I thank you for sharing that it, kind of came back, or maybe not came back, but kind of came to a head a year and a half ago. And that's, almost 22 and a half years after his passing. So that's important for our audience to understand, because again, you're so fortunate that you have so much love and support around you, and you have such a strong faith that has been good for you. But unfortunately, not everybody has that kind of support and systems in place. But it's good to share with audiences that it's something that you always have to manage.
Yes.
Because when you're self-aware, when you're in tune to what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's around you, it helps you to maintain, to persist, to keep going, rather than just crashing and not knowing what it is, because the incident happened so long ago that you realize that it's like anything else. It just maintains. It's always there with you. It's just about maintenance. And that's why I don't think anybody that's listening will misunderstand what you mean by putting things in a box, because at the time you were managing, you were having to manage what you could manage at the time. So I think the audience will totally understand what you're saying, because that's how you had to manage at that time. And when you were ready to, I guess, so to speak, figuratively take the box out, lift the lid, then you could do that. But it's about management and being self-aware and having the strength. But, but with that, I know I've kept you guys for some time, but, I want to pivot back to Ava in just a moment. But Gina, is there anything that, regarding Danny, that you would like our audience that's never heard of Daniel Philip Pena before? Is there anything you want us to remember about him or to know about him for those that have never heard?
Well, I will say, I mean, all people think their children are extraordinary, but he was an extraordinarily kind, gentle soul. He loved, we were fortunate, you know, we were all having babies at the same time, or my siblings, and so he had lots of cousins. He was always a peacemaker, a lover. He was a thumb sucker or finger sucker, and he loved soft things. You know, Valerie and I spent a lot of time together because our boys were just a couple of months apart. But you know, he would love to suck his finger and stroke your eyelashes, or you know, rub your hair on his eyes. He was kind and just beautiful. And I think, and speaking about that, you know, I feel so incredibly blessed to be his mother. He was all love, no bad. And so, you know, he was beautiful, and he was kind, and he was soft, and he was, you know, love. So that's what I want people to know about him, and anybody that knew him knew that. And we had a little song. I'll sing it.
Please do.
And he would do it too, because he thought he was like his mother. He thought he could, you know, dance, and he thought
he could.
So we would say, skit, scat, skiddly dee, come on, Philly, dance for me. And he would do his little moves, and then he would. So yeah. And that's, you know, that's why it's Philly and not Danny, because it was like, I love that song, and that's makes me happy to say it. So.
Well, and as his aunt, and one that always was selfish with him because I always wanted him with me and Marcus. He's very, very special to me, always will be. And I always want his name spoken to. And one thing that I always loved that he would do for you is he would kiss your freckles. Oh, and that made me very jealous because I didn't have freckles. You have freckles. I do not. And he liked to
kiss all kisses. I love it.
Yes. But thank you so much, Gina. I appreciate that. And Ava, you know, hearing all the things, your mother's accomplishments, some of her obstacles, looking at her, what are you most proud of about your mother? I know the many, many things, but what's the one thing that you think if you could tell one, you know, your friends, what's the first thing you say about your mama?
I think that my mom, she was obviously juggling a lot. She had all of us kids. She was starting a business. So I remember being really little, and I would call up to her office and say, Miss Fran, that was her secretary.
Above the garage.
Yeah, above the garage. They told me I can't go up there unless I'm announced. So, Miss Fran, can I talk to my mom? And she was like, your mom's on the phone. But I will say, no matter what my mom was juggling, she would come home and like, what are you talking about? What's going on? Like, nothing fazed her really. Like, she would not come home and be like, oh my gosh, today was so hard, blah, 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 I did this. Like, she was always like, all right, y'all ready for a dance party? Or what are we going to do today? So I think that's a big thing that she was able to do that is pretty inspiring, because even if it was an accomplishment, like a big accomplishment, I'm not going to name any names, but there's some big accounts that she has, and she would come home and she would just be like, it would be like nothing fazed her. Like, it was all normal. Like, that was just how it's supposed to be. So she wouldn't come home and be like, you know what I did today? I did this, this, and this. My company's doing so amazing. She was always very humble with her accomplishments. And she never, I guess, dwelled on the thing. Like, she liked to say she's a beacon of light. So she never dwelled on anything that ever happened to her. So, yeah, I think that's something that's admirable, because I personally can't. I have to tell everybody all the things that have happened to me.
Well, and I think that is something that's really special about you and your mother. You complement each other very, very well. So I was really looking forward to today's interview because y'all fill each other's blanks. So
thank you.
I think that's very good. But for you, Ava, looking forward, so what do we have to look forward to you? What are your goals? What do you see yourself doing within this year, within the next 5 years? What do you hope to be doing?
That's a big question. So I'm graduating college in May. I finished in 3 years. So this 3 years has been packed with big things. I've had 3 internships, studied abroad, always worked, always had a job. So I'm graduating in May. I have an internship. Well, obviously I'm Philly's go-to gal on all of their communications things, social media. But I also have another internship with a PR firm currently, and who knows, maybe they will give me a job. Maybe they'll give me a job, but also I don't know what I want to go into. There's a lot of things that are up in the air. I am currently mentoring with the US Dream Academy in Houston, and I've been doing that since maybe about 1.5 years, 2 years. And it's in a community that has been largely affected by mass incarceration. So we're starting from young ages to change, I guess, their destiny, let them know the things that they're capable of doing. So maybe get more involved in that. I know that they have some big things coming up that I would definitely want to be involved in, but it's all up in the air right now. I'm not completely sure. Maybe go get my master's. I considered going to law school, and I think something that's great that my parents have done for me were, I would say, literally the craziest things, and they would be like, go, do it, literally do it. I would say, if I said I want to be the president as soon as I'm 35, they would be like, you would be the best president. Go and be the president, girl. Go and market yourself, do everything you want to do. And I remember I told my dad, like, hey, I'm thinking about maybe going to law school. And he would be like, you can argue and you have it together. You can be the best lawyer. Just look into it, do everything with good intention. So honestly, with the way that I've been raised, anything can happen for me. So I'm not going to limit myself to anything. I know that there's big things that can happen for me.
Well, no doubt. And that is all very impressive. And you definitely have gotten a lot of, no doubt, from your father too, but there's many characteristics that you have of your mother. So her light continues to shine through you for sure. And, you know, Ava, I think sometimes maybe people listening in may think, oh, well, you were born into this family that does well, you're doing great things. I bet you she's never had an obstacle. She's never had anything to ever worry about. Have you ever encountered an obstacle that you want to share, and that how you've dealt with it or persist through it?
That's really interesting that you say that, because I was just telling my mom, growing up, we were never handed anything. My parents, no matter what we were doing, were not like, oh, you want to go shopping with your friends? Here's some money. And I grew up in Palacios, but whenever I was maybe in 4th grade, I moved here to the Sugar Land area, and it's a game changer. Like the lifestyle, the way people live, the way people act, completely different. So whenever I moved here and I got a little bit older and I wanted to hang out with my friends, I had to use my own money. And I was working since before I was supposed to be legally able to work. I had a fascination with money, really. And I was always like, Mom, is there anything I could do for some money? And I remember it would bother me so bad. Me and my sister that's a year older than me, used to always work at the same jobs together, just because, you want to have a friend at work. And we would work at these restaurants, and we would open the restaurant, let's just say around 9 a.m., and we'd work a double, close at 2 a.m., do the whole thing over again every weekend, and we'd work every day during the week. And I would come home, my feet would burn, and I would go to my dad, and my dad's my go-to guy. I would go to my dad and be like, Dad, I know that you can give me the money. You can literally, I don't have to be like, life doesn't have to be like this. Like, please, like, give me some money. My friends don't have to work. Like, it's not fair, And he was like, you're going to thank me. You and your sisters are going to thank me one day that I'm not giving you everything that you get, that you want. He was like, you're going to thank me for the work ethic that you're going to have. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But now that I'm older, I really do, because I know so many people that don't have the work ethic that I have. I've been able to, if I want something done, it's going to get done pretty much. So that is a big thing for me. I used to have to drive the Suburban. If you know, you know. Um, I used to have to fill it up $70 a week. And I was in high school, and I would be like, Mom, please give me money. Like, I don't want to use my own money.
We have a rule. If you're 16, you have to have a job. I don't care if they pay you 50 cents an hour. You have to work. You have to do something.
But gas was expensive, and they were like, you're going to learn to manage your money, work hard. You're going to get what you want. And it's a big lesson that I think a lot of people should have or should learn. It was a huge, at the time I hated it, but it's a huge blessing that I've been able to do that. I've always worked a job. I've always had those sort of things. But yeah, nothing was handed to me ever. Whenever I was little, my mom would take us in the back of the car to go sell shrimp, and me and my sisters would be there. So we were always watching my parents work and grind for what they want. So it's not grinding for what you want was not an option. I was telling my mom yesterday that at her office, one of her old offices, she would have, I was always employed. Let me just say that. I was 5 years old, and I wanted to hang out with my mom, and I told her, Mom, like, what can I do? She was like, you know what? Why don't you just sweep the office? And there would be mice in there, just to let you know.
Now, we moved from my garage apartment to the waterfront. That's
so
I didn't have rats.
There would be mice. There would be mice, and she would be like, I'd give you some money if you clean them up, right? So I would sweep them into a little paper with a little broom, and that was my job. I was mice catcher. I was her little cat. So it was always something. Me and my sisters would sell shampoo to people on the side of the road, making potions. We would do car washes in the front of my house. Of course,
our daughter was there too.
Yeah,
so.
The only people that would buy from us were our family members. But we were always hustling for money. So I think that was a big thing for me, is learning to always work for what you want.
Well, those are tremendous stories and good things to hear from, again, our audience. I think that's very valuable. And the one thing because I think we always have to mention it from people that had the experiences that maybe we had, is that although you were never given anything materialistically, you were so fortunate to have a strong network of support and love. And for those young people out there that don't have that support and love that I, we're so fortunate to have, it's important for those to learn, to somehow find the way to find a support network. If it's not at home, maybe friends that are supportive and encouraging, and or just if it's educators, whoever it is, to support your dreams, your expectations, all the motivation that you have. Because work ethic is everything, right? To be able to work, but to have that emotional support is even more important. So I want to thank you both.
I'm sorry, I just want to say, and I hope people realize that in that we are all children of God, and we are never alone. And I know that's not for everybody, and I know everybody has different beliefs, but those that, are feeling alone, we are never alone. We are all children of God, made in his image and likeness. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And you're right. That's not everybody's belief, but this is your story. You're telling your story. So we'd love to hear what you have to say. But before we close that, Travis, Gianna, are there any questions do you have? Because I have monopolized the time today, so I apologize for that. But you guys have anything you want to add or ask?
I don't have any questions or pressing questions. Everything that I was curious about either gets covered eventually or, covered at the very beginning. I just want to say thank you both for your stories and your time today. It's really inspiring to hear everything that you've been able to accomplish and everything that you've struggled through, but then overcame. So thank you.
Thank you. We feel honored to be asked.
So as we wrap up, again, thank you so much for being on our podcast, The Path of Most Persistence. And Regina Pena and Ava Pena, if you want to give a little shout out to your organization, your social media handles, anything you want to share before we close out today?
Yes, you can follow Philly Seafood at Philly Seafood on Instagram. On Facebook, we're Philly Shrimp, and we also have a YouTube channel, and it's Philly Seafood. Yeah, and you can always message us or ask us any questions. If you ever want to collaborate, everybody's welcome.
Thank you guys again so much.
All right. Well, that'll be it for today. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our listeners, and thank you for those of us that sat in today. So have a great day.
Wonderful day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. The Nuclear Power Institute is a joint center with Texas A&M University and the Texas A&M Engineering Experiment Station, and is a component of the Nuclear Engineering and Science Center. For more information about our center or about our guest speaker today, please visit our website at npi.tamu.edu and look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you.